Hi everyone, this is Trish with Decant Designs, and today we're going to make this very functional purse. I just love this purse. I've been wanting to make a zipper purse for a long time, and I finally figured it out. It has an outside pocket, nice and handy for your keys. Inside pockets, we have two zipper pockets that have matching fabric, just like your outside fabric. Has a snap closure center pocket, and I did put a pocket in the back as well. This purse measures 7.5 inches tall, 9.5 inches wide, and it's 3.5 inches deep. And I did use the strap webbing to make the strap. You could make your own strap as well with coordinating fabric. So come along with me and sew. I think you're really going to enjoy this project. The first thing you'll do is anything that you have to iron on, we'll do that first. So take the 4 lining pieces from pack number 5 here, and when you press your interfacing onto it, leave a little bit at the, looks like about 1 inch at the top, so make sure you press it at the bottom. Then for your pockets, number 6, the outer and inner pocket, iron your interfacing to these 2 pieces. And then for number 3, the side panel, number 1, iron your fusible fleece to your long piece. And I'll do that, and we'll move on to the next step. The next step is to take your 12 by 12 inch squares, set your ruler diagonally from corner to corner, and draw a line. I'm using friction pens, and then I take the ruler, slide it over on the 2-inch line, put it on the line you just drew, draw another line, scoot it over, draw another line. So then I have this square cross pattern. I'll draw that on each one, and then after that we'll set this fabric on the foam and then sew this to the foam along your lines. And so I'll mark my other piece of fabric and I'll get this sewn onto the foam and we'll go on. I've got the quilting on here. Next we're going to cut these panels to 10.25 inches by 8.25 inches. These are cut to size. Next I'm going to just go around the edge and sew pretty closely, about 1/4 inch away from the edge, just to lock in these stitches so they don't come unraveled during the sewing process. I got the edges sewn on the outside panels. Next I'm going to make a pocket for the front panel. I folded one of the pockets in half. I marked 1.5 inches down from the top, and I put the sticky tape on it, and I'm going to remove, hopefully, there we go. I'm going to put my label on there, right there, and I'll sew the label on. That label's sewn on, so next we'll take the pocket pieces and fold them in half and sew along each edge. Okay, the sides are sewn, so I'm just going to take the scissors and clip the corners of each pocket and then turn it right side out and press both of them. Now these are pressed. Take your accent pieces of fabric, lay them right on top, and sew a 3/8 of an inch seam along the top. My pieces were a little long, so I just trimmed some off. Next, take this to the iron and press it. And what you'll do is press it up, fold the ends over, press it in half, and then in half again, just like that. I've got this pressed, and next just sew a top stitch, stitch in the ditch right there. I'm going to sew the pocket on the front panel. I creased the panel in half. I have the center of the pocket right here. I measured 2 inches down from the top. I'm going to pin this on and then sew it on. With your long piece that you have the fusible fleece on the back, that's part of number 3, fold it in half and make a notch. Take your webbing, 2-inch webbing that you have cut, and your D-ring, and sew this onto the right side. So just like that on each end. The next step is to fold your front panel in half and make a little notch with your scissors. I folded this in half, the long piece that you put your fusible fleece on. That would be the piece number 3. Cut a little notch here. Match your notches and turn them right side together. Put a couple clips in. And then about 1/4 inch from each end of the panel, take your scissors and make a little slit right here and right here. Okay? Then fold your sides up. Put a couple clips at the top and then a couple clips at the sides if you want to. Okay, so what you'll have when you've got this folded is like a bare space on the corner. Okay, so you're gonna sew each corner, each side down to the corner, and then you'll fold this up and sew along the bottom. So I sew my sides first, fold this up out of the way so you don't catch it, and then sew the bottom. I'll do that and then we'll move on. Okay, I wanted to show you that I sewed the 3/8 of an inch seam on either side, and then we'll fold this over like this and sew 3/8 of an inch seam at the bottom. Full transparency, I did forget to put these on, but I put it in the right order for y'all. Next, you're going to take your panel and clip it and sew this panel on at 3/8 of an inch seam as well. I've got both of the sides sewn, and then I just take the bottom and clip it and sew the 3/8 of an inch seam along the bottom. Oops. Okay. And then just take your scissors and clip the corners off a little bit. That one corner is probably going to be ugly. It's done it on every purse I've made, so. All right, we can set this aside now. Next, grab set 2, the 2 outer pieces of fabric and the 2 lining pieces, and you will sew the accent piece along the top at 3/8 of an inch seam. I did cut it just a skosh big, and we'll trim that after it's sewn on. 3/8 of an inch seam on each one. Got that sewn on. I did press towards the dark fabric, and next you're going to sew a top stitch. It's about 1/4 of an inch for that seam, so just right here, so it looks pretty, the top stitch. I'll be right back. Next, take the number 4 piece with the smaller accent piece and the longer lining and sew right sides together. I'm using broadcloth, so I have no really right sides together right now, but you see. Sew these on, and we'll go to the next step. These are sewn on. I did press to the dark side, and let's sew a top stitch just like we did the other, right along here. Next, we'll get the number 5 packet for the main inner part. We've already put our interfacing on, and we're going to put the snap set on next. Next, with 2 of the lining pieces that you have your interfacing on, make sure that the part that has the little leftover on the top is facing up. With your friction marker or whatever you're using, draw a line 4 centimeters down, which is 1 3/8 inches about. So I drew a line here, sat the backing of the snap onto that, and this right there, and I marked the holes, the long holes. I took the seam ripper and I just poked a little hole in each. Next, you'll just take your snap and stick it in there. Okay, so I stuck that in there. And then take the backing piece, flip that over, stick that on there, and bend over the tabs. And do the same for the other piece. Okay, set your snap set pocket that you just made aside, and then next we'll put our tabs on our zippers. So with the zipper right side up, your bottom piece will be right side up, your top piece will be right side down, and just sew just a little over 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch seam on each end of both zippers. After your tabs are sewn on, I zipped my zipper up, folded it in half, and cut notches at the center. Those notches are probably a little too big. Just be careful, do it like that. Okay, folded the panel in half and cut notches on this too. For the first one, you make sure your zipper's zipping to the right and put that face down. On the other one, make sure your zipper is zipping to the left and put that face down on the notch. Next, take your coordinating fabric, which is I'm calling it the outer fabric. I've folded it in half and cut a notch at the top and the center. Lay it down, matching the notches, and then clip these together so they're very even. And using your zipper foot if you want to, that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to sew the tops of the zipper. I've got them sewn on, and you see the zipper tabs are just a little too long, so I'm going to trim those off. Then fold it together like this and do a top stitch right along the zipper here on both pieces. Next, in your last 2 lining pieces and these pieces, fold them in half and cut a notch at the top of each, and then make sure your zipper pulls her down, okay? Place your black lining fabric, or I'm going to call it inside lining fabric, face down on the to match the other part. Turn them over and then place your other pieces on top, right sides together, and then clip them so they're all lined up nice, and so use your zipper foot and sew along the zipper. Once you have those the zipper sewn on, open that up and sew your top stitch on both pieces on this part here. Okay, I've got the top stitches done. Open that up a little bit just in case. Fold this in half, not in half, fold it together, I guess I should say. And if you have any trimming to do, now is the time to do it. After you trim it, which I have a little bit to trim, it's pretty normal. Sew each side and the bottom at 3/8 of an inch seam on each piece. Now take one of your lining pieces, excuse me, that you're going to put your pocket on. I pressed a crease in it with the iron, and same thing with this. Where the top stitch is and that crease right there, the seam I should say, sorry, I'm going to place the pocket an inch down from that and sew the pocket on both sides and the bottom. My pocket is sewn on, so next you'll take your snapped zippered pouches, and these are going to be too big, but just by the way we cut them and sewed them, I guess. So I'm going to place this edge, the zipper edge, about an inch or an inch from the seam there, and trim this. After I trim it, I'll sew both sides and the bottom on that 3/8 of an inch seam. Okay, so next you'll take the piece that you sewed the accents on, fold it in half, make a notch at the centers, line this up at the center. There's a line on it, so I don't have to worry about cutting a notch in there. Clip that on, make sure it's face down. Clip this on the top like this. Clip this on the top. Okay, so you'll sew it on like before, except for on this one, you're going to leave 4.5 inches open so that we can turn the purse right side out in just a few minutes. So we're almost done. So that's sewn on, and next do the same thing as we did before on the other side. Clip your other zippered pocket onto the panel that you just sewed together and sew that on at a 3/8 of an inch seam as well. Trim the corners off of each corner just a little bit. Turn your main panel right side out, and in the snap part you're going to put your panel in. Hi, Lola Bell. Okay, and then where your corner seams are, clip all the way around, and sew a 3/8 of an inch seam all the way around, making sure that your D-rings are down so you don't get those with your needle. Once you've sewn the top all the way around, then turn your bag right side out using the hole you saved here. When you've turned it right side out, sew this bottom shut. I'm just going to use my sewing machine. You can hand stitch it if you'd like. Okay, once you've sewn your hole shut there, I pressed around the top to make sure that it looks nice and neat, and then now I'm going to just sew a top stitch right along the edge. And then we'll be done. Attach the strap and it's all done. Okay, I've attached the handle after I sewed the top stitch along the top. So you see the pockets on the back, 2 zipper pockets, a middle pocket with the snap, and here. What a lovely purse this is, and it's just the right size. It measures 7.5 inches tall, 9.5 inches wide, and 3.5 inches deep. And I appreciate you sewing along with me. And I am going to link my Venmo account. I don't charge for patterns, and I don't charge for videos. I am recovering from foot surgery, and I do have a lot of medical bills that I'm trying to pay off. So if anyone would like to make a donation, I'd really appreciate it. Don't have to, of course. Just if you feel like you want to help me out a little bit, I would love that. I do have to have another foot surgery because one of the screws broke in my foot after the last one. So anyway, I appreciate you watching my videos. Please like, subscribe, and share.